Maxxine was released over the weekend, and it is the newest film by A24 and written directed by Ty West once again, and it is the concluding chapter of this unofficial new modern horror trilogy. But I want to go see it over the weekend, so let's review. Maxxine picks up years after the events of X, and we follow Maxxine Meeks as she has been thriving in the adult film industry, and now she wants to break out and become a legit actress in Hollywood. But her past comes back to haunt her and could ultimately hurt her career that she is currently trying to make a transition in. Now, if you've watched my review of X and Pearl, you know that I enjoy X, but I prefer Pearl more because it was basically a character study and it was acted beautifully by Mia Goth. But after rewatching both those films, I still feel the same way about Pearl, but I've grown to appreciate X a lot more, and with Maxxine being the concluding chapter of this unofficial new modern horror trilogy, I was curious to see how it would conclude. And I think Ty West, I thought he did a good job at making basically two different films with two distinctive styles that goes back to two completely different eras of cinema. And now, after watching Maxxine, how do I feel? I actually really enjoyed this film, and there's a lot to admire about this film. Now, right now, I'm still on the fence as to which within this trilogy that I like more, but Maxxine on its own is still a great film and a fitting conclusion to this trilogy. Ty West made an old-time film that harkens back to the old Hollywood age with Pearl, and with X, he made a throwback to 70s films. And here, he basically made a throwback to 80s films, right down to everything from the aesthetic, the wardrobe, what movies and TV looked like back in those days, from the newsreels and all the current events that happened during that time and era. This movie does take place in 1985 after all. But at the same time, this movie is still not all style and no substance, because there is definitely some substance in it. But it is also still a horror movie that maintains the horrorness of the first two films, because this film does get gory and gritty. Like, there's a moment in the film where somebody is basically butt naked and now he's on the ground ass up, and they get their nuts curb stomped on. There's even a scene in this film that I thought was pretty authentic, and they basically used behind the scenes of the making of a film to make a scary scene in which someone is someone is using wax to make a mass prosthetic, and so they have to sit there for 10 minutes and then they get stuck because they gotta continue to keep breathing. And it just reminded, because I remember seeing this on like the behind the scenes of making Michael Jackson's Thriller, and just knowing that and that being ingrained in my brain, and actually seeing someone make something scary out of that scene, woo, that was scary. And it's just something that I never really thought about. But then again, and unfortunately, I've not been in a position where I've seen anybody do that right in front of me. But I also love the mystery aspect of this film, because there is someone called the Night Stalker out there just killing random porn stars. And Maxxine is caught in the middle of it, and it is connected to stuff that happens within her past. And what ultimately they allude to within her past is not necessarily to everything that happened in X, but something that happened when she was a little girl, and the way they connected that. And I am glad I went back and rewatched X to have that context. It definitely does help to watch the first two films to understand this film. And if you don't, it's completely fine. I think you'll still get what you need out of this film. This film definitely shows that Ty West, he's getting money with each movie he makes, because this is a stacked cast. Not just, Mia Goth. Though I do gotta say, I gotta give Mia Goth her flowers, because she played two different characters within this trilogy, but also has to play Maxxine in two different times and eras, and it is just mind-blowing to see. She's definitely one to watch as far as actresses go. But I love the character of Maxxine here, because it's like, her whole thing is, I will not accept a life I do not deserve. And you understand her plight throughout this movie. She was trying to break into the industry and become a star by any means necessary, and then she is put in positions that she has to protect herself and protect her dream and become the star. And then once it all really comes to fruition and you get to the end of the movie, that's when it all really clicks on you. And I thought Mia Goth, she carried that beautifully. Plus, this movie also has something to say about how the adult film industry is looked down upon, and I can definitely see it in this film, and they illustrated it perfectly, though they don't linger on it too much because it still has a story to tell and it all fits into the story that they're trying to tell. Elizabeth Debicki plays this big-time film director, a female director at that, and she really does do a good job of playing like that filmmaker that has a vision, and she will not let studio interference ruin it, and she even encourages Maxxine to do what she needs to do to be in the right mindset to play this role. And her character definitely has something to say about the corporation of movie studios versus directors trying to, basically be artists and make the movie they want to make, and not something that was mandated by the studio or made by some focus group, or not make something that upsets the status quo. Kevin Bacon, it's crazy how Kevin Bacon came out with 2 films this weekend. It was Axel Foley, and now he's in Maxxine, and he's great in both of them. He really shows why he's a good actor in both these movies, and especially here. Like, anytime he came on the screen in this movie, he was just a joy to watch, and just watching him have a Tennessee accent and then just harassing Maxxine, and just Kevin Bacon looked like he was just having fun with this role. Giancarlo Esposito, he's definitely having a big year, and I'm glad he's definitely getting his flowers, and it's good to see him in this movie playing Maxxine's agent. You get some other appearances by Halsey and Lily Collins, and for the roles they have in this movie, it definitely fits in. And then you got the 2 cops played by Michelle Monaghan and Bobby Cannavale, and they more so play into the mystery aspect of this movie, but they played their roles excellently, and anytime they came on screen, especially Bobby Cannavale, they were a joy to watch. But the reason I say this movie is a fitting conclusion to this trilogy is because it still plays on into the theme of what you're willing to do to achieve success. We saw that with Pearl, and she didn't get the success that she was trying to achieve, and we see what that ultimately did to her in the long run. And then we get Maxxine, who actually goes those extra steps and extra miles to achieve success, and we see where that got her. But these movies have also been a commentary on Hollywood to a certain degree, how women are treated within Hollywood, and the lengths women sometimes have to go to get to where they're trying to go in Hollywood. At some point, I'll probably tell you which one within this trilogy that I like more, but as of right now, let's just celebrate the fact that we got a movie that sticks the landing and concludes this trilogy perfectly. Later on down the line, I may give Maxxine the hard eyes emoji, but if I did that, that would mean that I like it more than Pearl. And so once I finally watch all 3 of these movies back to back, I might give my definitive rating on how I feel about all 3 of them, but as for right now, I'm just going to give Maxxine the same rating that I gave both Pearl and X. I'm going to give Maxxine the thumbs up emoji.